Hey everybody, I just want to pop in and talk about Project Helix. Now, in one of my last videos, I talked about how the shakeups at Xbox coming out of nowhere without any grand reveals or plans being thrown in at the same time signaled potentially a demise of Xbox, especially given where Asha Sharma was coming from, strictly from like an AI part of the business. It really was very concerning. Now, that said, recently they have announced Project Helix and they've given details at GDC about what this is looking like and what this is going to be. And while I could get in the weeds on all the tech specs and stuff like that, if you know me from a gaming standpoint, I don't really care about that. I think that, just kind of from a philosophical basis, that the quest for hyper realism and more power in gaming has really been a detriment to the actual gaming part of the hobby as a whole, because games are getting bigger, but they're feeling more of a slog. I mean, there are open world games, and I love me a good open world game, but they start feeling more like work than actual games. They lose fun, you lose track. I mean, after 50, 60 hours of playing a game and exploring, and like, that's cool and all, but it's like eventually I tap out after a while because it's just almost too much. And lately I've been diving more and more into smaller indie games, platformers, puzzlers, things like that. Stuff that would be, almost home on a Super Nintendo as opposed to the latest and greatest PC rig. But leaving all that aside, the thing that really sort of excites me about Project Helix and kind of, gives me this, idea that Project Helix could be great. We're talking 360 era success level for Microsoft, is the notion that they are not just making this something that you can play Steam, good old games, and Epic Game Store, and it's all in one place, BattleNet, and the ability to do that in this kind of console-ified, operating system. For me, it's what they announced in regards to backwards compatibility. Basically, this kind of idea of basically anything from the Xbox, the original Xbox through to now being playable on Project Helix. Now, this was sparse on details, but the promise there and the potential there could be something groundbreaking. Because if they are going in a direction that it sounds to me like they're going in, would be the notion that I could go out to a GameStop or eBay or my local game store and buy an Xbox game, an original Xbox game on disc, pop it in, and they're going to be using emulation and AI to let you not only just play that game, but it will graphically enhance that game on the fly as you play. And that, to me, is intriguing, because if that is true, if it can live up to that promise, that idea, and have successful results in that, that is a game changer. That changes backwards compatibility going forward. That sets an amazing standard. Now, the question is, will anybody else go with it? It's hard to tell. Nintendo has been notoriously terrible around backwards compatibility. Every system that they have has, if it even attempts it, has some weird convoluted mode for it. I mean, the Wii U, you had to basically basically had a Wii mode. Like, nothing ran just, natively from the Wii menu. If you wanted to play any Wii games, you had to switch over to Wii mode, which was ridiculous. You also had to do the thing where you had to have, basically the physical device talked to the physical device in order to prep it for all your old games before you traded your system in, which is just a horrible, from a consumer standpoint, of letting people trade in their old device to get a new one and save a little bit of that money. PlayStation, of course, was behind the 8 ball. Obviously from 4 to 5, much better there, but still not great. There's still stuff that is abandoned to the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3. Could this pull Sony kicking and screaming into a new mode of backwards compatibility? Hard to tell. It's really going to depend on how successful Helix is in this space. But, I mean, this opens a whole lot of doors. Could we see all of those Xbox Live Arcade titles that are sitting on a server for the people who bought them, but aren't available, if you don't have a 360 to re-download them? There's a lot of those games that are just chilling. One game that always sticks out to me that I wish that I could fire up and play right now on my Series X is South Park Tower Defense. That was a great game. That's a fun game. But I can't play it right now unless I go out and buy myself a 360. I don't want to do that. I don't want to deal with that. And potentially get a Red Ring one or whatever. Even if I'm only paying, $15 at a thrift store to get one, I don't want to hassle with that. Finding all the components and make sure everything is there, and, finding a controller that works. And, that's just not, that effort isn't worth it to me to play one game, no matter how much I like it. But if Project Helix's backwards compatibility is all they're selling it as, these games should be able to come back. They're all sitting there. They're there. They're on the servers. Like I said, if you got a 360, technically speaking, you should be able to download them if you bought them. You just can't buy them new. You just can't buy a new copy of it. And I get that, in order to, sell them on the marketplace, you need to, sign new deals and everything like that. I don't understand why no one would just sign a deal. To me, it doesn't make any sense. These are games that are, in some aspects, with some of these older, titles, almost, 20 years old. You got games that are, Xbox Live Arcade games that are nearing 20 years old. You're not making any money. So why not? Why not just let them resell it? It's free money at that point. But I think that this holds a lot of promise. I think this is great. And I think that if they can nail this backwards compatibility promise, I think Helix can bring Xbox back in a major way, combined with that PC, being able to play all your PC games. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your hopes are for this backwards compatibility on Helix, and I'll see you in the next video.